Hello and welcome to season 5 of Porcelain Peak, and we back. Running man.
And we have returned.
We are returned. Yes.
This ain't no intro, ain't no entree. Got that intro with Kanye.
I don't
Sound like Andre.
Okay.
3,000.
Okay. Maniacs. I don't know. Anyway, if you don't know, if this is your first time tuning in, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, maybe your old hat, whatever the fuck. I'm Tone, right? This is John Piedmont Mumble Thunder.
And I'm the boy.
Yes, the
He's
boy.
back. The boy is back.
The boy, the darling, the
The
sensation.
boy is back in town.
He's here, yeah.
Yeah, internet darling Anthony. As you can tell, we still got it. We
still got it.
Yeah, we just aced that intro.
Do we know how to
Still
do an
can-
intro?
I'm
What?
still confused as to what the fuck you called me.
Piedmont Mumble Thunder.
P-butt?
Piedmont. That's my new thing for the season. I'm going to call you a different name every time.
I got P in my butt,
And
but
today
don't
it's-
call me a P-butt.
Today's Piedmont Mumble Thunder.
Andy Villadakis reference?
That is,
Yeah.
This is it. Anyway, hello. We are a podcast.
Hello.
Strange and scary. And this season, you know, we're going to maybe dip our toes in some other shit.
Yeah.
We're going to do whatever we want this season.
Yeah, we're
It
the
could be
artist
our last.
formerly known as a horror and sci-fi podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are turning ourselves into a symbol. Something like this.
Yeah, but as you've probably seen if you follow us on the Instagram, on the socials, we've been gearing up all month with the help of a lot of you to put together our annual 31 Terror Tales, where we talk about 31 horror or horror adjacent movies.
Pretty much, yeah.
In-
Mostly adjacent this week.
Yeah, in 4 different categories, a 5th special category that we'll talk about. But yeah, so we got that list together with a bunch of your votes. The turnout was awesome this year. We definitely had a lot more submissions, and I got to have really cool conversations with a lot of you about some of these movies. So yeah, we took a list of, I don't know how many movies we had, and
somewhere in the neighborhood of like 70 to 80 movies, I think. Maybe
Yes.
even more.
and pared them down to the final list. Do we want to go through the list, or how do we want to do that?
We can when we get to the main discussion, but
Yeah.
before we dive into the main discussion, so that's what we're doing. We're doing 31 Terror Tales. We do got some chop talk since we have been gone for a month. A ton of stuff has come up. And
Also
then-
have news for us as well.
yes, and we are going to play some trivia, and we are going to be pretty loosey-goosey with Final Cut this season because it doesn't always work. Sometimes it's forced, and we're just like, fuck it. We want it to be as smooth as possible. So most of that content is probably going to go over to
Say.
Patreon.
Do you like jazz?
I don't know.
You know, in the Star Wars universe, jazz music is
Is
called
jizz?
jizz music.
Probably. I think you've told me that.
That's a real fact, yeah. Oh, well, I just like to remind people that, like,
There's
once in
jizz?
a blue moon, that there's jizz music in the Star Wars universe.
Well, there you go. That's what the episode's going to be about. So we'll go ahead and get
Just-
started with that chop talk.
Why don't you take an axe and chop it open?
All right, Piedmont, how you doing?
Tell
us.
So,
Yeah, P-butt.
the month of like only pretty much recording bonus episodes and stuff was a little rough. Not having like structure is very complicated for me. There were a couple of times where the bonus episode went out a couple of days late because I forgot. Because we
all good.
behind the curtain a little bit, we recorded a bunch of them in mass, and so I had
Midnight.
3 of them just sitting there.
No, we should talk about Sandman.
So not having like any structure to that was very complicated. I'm glad to get a little structure back into my life. But as of right now, I'm currently on vacation, getting to spend some time with my niece who is in town from Oklahoma, which makes me very happy.
Oh, shit. Did you send it back?
Oh shit!
We're
Stuck forever. But so as of right
Anyone
now,
listening, we just did a massive wave.
my cup is very full right now, which I'm very grateful for.
Good. Yeah, that's
Your
great.
bowls runneth over.
Your balls runneth over.
Yeah.
Is that not what we're talking about? Anthony, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty freaking fantastic. For one, it's officially the spooky season. We're doing the Halloween shit. And it is very difficult for me to be in a very bad mood when there's Halloween decorations in the apartment. We have a ton up already. My sister's adding new ones every couple days. It's a fucking spooky extravaganza at that place. Also found out this isn't gonna go in Chop Talk. This is not important enough, but Tombstone Pizza, the frozen pizza that you get in the grocery store, they're doing a October contest where if you live on a real life Elm Street, like I do, you can win a year of free pizza. from Tombstone, and I'm going to be entering, and then I'm going to be hacking their mainframe to make sure that I win, because I ate a lot
Enhance.
of pizza. But yeah, other than that, it's been a great month. I took the time leading up. I know usually you used to do a September Starve where you wouldn't watch any horror movies, Tone, until we got to October. I kind of did a similar thing, but I've been trying to knock through the AFI top 100 movies of all time. So for most of September, I was trying to knock out a couple of those every week. So I got through my first time watches of The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2. Incredible. Movies like Chinatown, On the Waterfront, lots of classics. And it felt really nice to go from that to things like Ernest Scared Stupid and Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. I was like...
Same level, right?
Yeah, obviously. All masterpieces of film. But
You know what I mean?
But yeah, it was a good September, but I missed you guys, and I'm happy to be back in the seat. I was looking forward to it all day, and that's why I knocked out the new video segments and put all this Chop Talk stuff together, as I was like, it feels good to be back in the groove, baby.
Feels good to be bad, baby.
Yeah, Tone, how are you doing?
I'm going to move into shout-outs. So,
Fair enough.
real quick, I just wanted to shout out Jim Maher, maybe? Maher? M-A-H-E-R?
Okay.
Commented over on YouTube. Said he loves the show. So I just want to give you a shout-out, bud. We appreciate the support.
If you're listening, thanks for lending us your ears, countrymen.
And or your eyes. All right, because we're
My
tubing.
brand, yeah.
This will be our first season fully.
In video,
Yeah.
Oh,
Right? Because we start,
shit.
we start mid.
Like, midway through 4.
That's so true. This is the season that's going to live on in infamy. I want to shout out, again, everybody who contributed to submissions for 31 Terror Tales. I want to shout out
many people.
Stephen Vayu, who, really, he's got to have a massive head for all the shout outs that we give him, but he actually watched Sandman and then went and listened to all of our episodes. He saved them all up, all of our bonus Patreon episodes, until he was done with Sandman, and then we had a nice little conversation about it. And yeah, everyone who has kept the dream alive in September while we've been on break.
I would like to give some shout outs as well, and this also kind of blends into some of the news about us. And I'd like to thank the Porcelain Peak Creep Cult. Our Patreon is
TM.
making some adjustments. So we were
You know what I'm saying?
so 2 years ago we had a boatload of tiers and a bunch of extra perks that we couldn't make work. We compacted that down into 3 tiers last year, which is a little more manageable, but still very stress-inducing. So we took the best parts of those 3 tiers, we mashed them all together, and made one.
Frankenstein's monster style.
Yeah, we made one tier for $5 at Patreon now. So
Yeah, so if you were hesitant before, that $5 tier is pretty fucking packed. Like, I would probably do it if I didn't already get it. You know?
And now you can look at all your other patrons and go, yo, we're on the same level.
yeah. So, John, you want to run through some of that shit is?
Yeah, so for $5, when you join the Creep Cult, you get ad-free episodes on Mondays. You get weekly exclusive bonus episodes, like the one that we did for this week was for the movie Barbarian, which we watched over the break.
Barbarian.
Which I would highly suggest to check out if you have not. You get access to our over 20 current Slash to Piece Theater library, our commentary tracks, which we had a ton of fun. Usually we talk about, middling to shit movies, and we make them a lot better by being funny.
Yeah, most recently we watched Under Wraps, the original.
Yeah.
From the Disney Channel original movie, Under Wraps.
Loved the conversation. I don't know
Yes.
how much of that movie we actually watched. Pizza was good.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all I can say.
You'll get an exclusive patrons-only discount code for merch on our Spring store. You get access to our Instagram Close Friends feed, which will be adding behind-the-scenes content and stuff like that, too.
Picking out belly lint, picking butts, that kind of thing.
You'll get a shout-out on our episode.
Picking butts and licking
and also shout-outs on social media as well. And then
Like those shout-outs we just did.
Exactly.
Perfect example, John.
and then the eternal or undying gratitude and love from you 3 boys here.
Yeah, the ghoul love.
Yeah, and once again, that is the Creep Cult TM, and that's for the price of a $5 Jared Fogle footlong.
Yeah. I don't want anything to do with Jared Fogel's footlong.
yeah, you already endorsed it.
I hit it with a yeah, no. I'm from
See how his
California.
voice is getting higher, more alarmed.
Like Zoink Scoop.
Yeah. So yeah, hop on over to patreon.com/porcelainpeak and do the
Join
thing.
the cult.
Join the cult.
Join the cult. Yeah, before we get into news, there is a little thing I wanted to tell you guys and people on the internet about called the Halloween tree. You know, you and I talked a little bit about it off mic.
They actually mentioned it on the podcast I was listening to on the way here.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, no way.
To me, it's a pretty unknown story by Ray Bradbury, which is going to come up a couple times today.
Yeah.
And then maybe later on this month. But it is about a group of boys and their friend goes missing. So this mysterious creature who is very creepy. I think I sent you that picture. That's from the book. And he takes them on a journey through time to discover the origins of Halloween.
That's
and
dope.
It's a kid's book. And I was like, why the fuck did I not know about this?
What the
loved
fuck
it.
is
Yeah,
that?
I think you guys would love it. And Bradbury wrote a screenplay for it that was adapted into a cartoon like in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And got an Academy Award for it. Like
That's how it was brought up on the podcast I was listening to, is the guy was saying that he loved Something Wicked This Way Comes and The Halloween Tree.
Yeah, so highly recommend that. And if you have kids, I think it's great for, I don't know, I mean, you'd be the judge on that, but it works. It's not too creepy, but it does dive into some creepy bits regarding the origins. I mean, and it doesn't stray away from too much, like, you know, the pagans were killed by the Romans were killed by the Christians. Like, it goes into it, and I was like, right on.
Yeah, Bradbury was some of my first reading into more science fiction. Like I read more of his like The Illustrated Man, like all the anthology stories and that, and stuff like Fahrenheit. Yeah, more in the sci-fi realm, but stuff that was, you could read it in when you were younger, but it had some heavier tones and heavier themes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, between that and Dandelion Wine, I think that he does a really good job of capturing what it's like to be young. And so the whole time I was reading The Halloween Tree, I was like, I just want to go like trick-or-treating again for like the first time.
Well, that's how I felt.
You know what I mean?
That's how I felt with the movie Something Wicked This Way Comes, to
Yeah.
kind of get ahead of ourselves there. But yeah, there's some writing in that where I was like, dude, he wrote the screenplay. Like
Yeah.
I was like, dude, you're so good at like making me go, oh, I wish I was a little kid running around in the autumn leaves getting ready for trick or treating.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So plethora of news. Yeah.
Yeah, let's bang through it. I tried to order this.
bang.
She bang.
Yeah. Throw it.
I tried to order this shit in from most exciting to least exciting, but since there was so much news, I just tried to go with the most important stuff. Number one is something that just got announced yesterday by a video on Ryan Reynolds' Twitter account. But yeah, Deadpool 3 is not only coming out September 6th, 2024, but is also going to feature Hugh Jackman returning as the character of am I pronouncing this right? Wolverine. Okay, so he's coming back
Burt
as
Wolverine.
yeah, he's coming back as Ernest P. Wolverine, and so that's big news because we all thought that Logan was going to be. I mean, I always was like, give it enough time. He's going to miss playing that part.
Let him do a couple bad movies.
Have him make movie 44, and he'll turn around and come back.
Also, he and Ryan Reynolds are obviously really good friends. Like Ryan Reynolds has poked fun at Hugh Jackman and Wolverine in previous Deadpool movies. So this kind of felt inevitable. So everybody was just very happy. I heard somebody say that they hope Hugh Jackman finally gets to live his dream of doing a Wolverine musical. Which I could totally see happening in the realm of a Deadpool movie.
Yeah.
James Mangold the director of Logan, posted the clip of, spoiler alert, Logan being like impaled and killed in the Logan movie, and everybody took that as him saying like, fuck this, you're ruining my movie or whatever, and he had to come out. Obviously it's Twitter, so everybody flew off the handle and had to be like, no, like, it's comic books, like, it's the multiverse, it's Deadpool, like, they can do whatever they want. This could be a prequel, sequel, time travel, whatever, it doesn't matter. We're just happy to see Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine.
So Mangold's not upset.
No. Yeah, he was just posting that going, just, I think, just showing like, hey, don't forget that I gave this a really good ending at one point.
So whatever happens next isn't on me.
But nothing's sacred anymore. Everything comes back.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter how good the ending to something was. They're always, if there's money or there's people who are passionate enough about it, like,
And Deadpool does whatever it wants anyway.
Well, yeah, and you can tell that Hugh Jackman loves playing the character, and yeah, while it may be confusing because Deadpool's now in the MCU, and how does that work with Deadpool already having those X-Men and now also having this Wolverine when Marvel's also trying to do its own MCU? It's the multiverse. Again, anything can happen. But that's all I got to say about that is it's 2 years away, and I think we both agreed that we were pretty stoked about that news.
Yeah, pretty much. I loved the video. I loved the part where he was pouring the gin into his little self-advertisement, but it just kept going.
Yeah, and then he's like, I had to look deep inside myself. It's just him on the toilet,
Yeah.
looking at his phone. He's
He's
like,
a
I
funny
came
guy.
up with nothing. Yeah, he's great. He should team up with another comedian and buy a football team. Other bit of news, I don't think any of us have seen Pearl yet.
I have.
You have seen Pearl?
You have seen Pearl.
I have.
Oh.
Okay, you sneaky little bastard.
Yeah, cool invite.
Yeah.
When did you watch it?
Like last week.
Okay. Well, 2 out of 3 of us, the loyal ones in the group, have not seen Pearl. And
we hardly ever go to the movies together.
yeah, after I'm like, I hate going to the movies. The movies fucking suck. Thanks for the invite. So when Pearl dropped, there was the announcement that there was going to be a sequel to X. So Pearl is a prequel to Mia Goth's old lady character from X. Maxine, with 3 X's, is going to be a sequel to her Maxine character from X. So
it's literally the after credit scene of Pearl is the trailer.
yeah, he's basing it on like the...
Oh man, he's already like in it, huh?
Yeah, and he's basing the style off of like 80s VHS culture. And I haven't seen Pearl, so I haven't done too much digging into the whole Maxine thing, but still A24. And I think it's pretty incredible that Ty West is having this kind of run in the span of a few months.
Yeah.
Like for
When he
them.
hasn't made a movie in like a
Yeah,
decade.
and then it's like, just kidding. He's making a trilogy of movies all around Mia Goth, and the world is just completely smitten with Mia Goth. And I've kind of been following her career through all of the weird-ass movies she's done since Lars von Trier's Nymphomaniac was where I first saw her, and then things like High Life, Cure for Wellness. She's been in a bunch of stuff as a very talented weirdo.
Say one of those movies is really good.
Did you like Pearl?
I enjoyed it quite a bit. Mia Goth is fucking phenomenal in it.
I've heard. Yeah.
So there, I won't spoil anything about the movie, but there is a take where she is
It's like a monologue she does, right?
Yeah, it's gotta. It feels like it's fucking 4 million years, but it's gotta be a bare minimum of like 6 to 8 minutes of unedited footage directly on her face where she's telling the story. And she just like, goes from like moments of happiness to just fucking sobbing. Like, I mean, it's breathtaking shit.
Wow.
Yeah, I definitely want to check it out. I just wasn't racing, and I was kind of hoping it would be one of those movies that like just went to streaming pretty quick, because I was like,
I don't know. So I will say it's done in like a shooting style similar to something like The Wizard of Oz, where it's like this really bright Technicolor type
Yeah.
of vibe that I think is really lends itself well to theaters. I will say that.
All right.
well, if I find myself with a free afternoon, maybe I'll check it
Yeah,
out.
maybe we'll go together. Huh?
Give each other a couple of popcorn tuggers.
Yeah.
You
With our
get the kids'
clammy
meal.
hands, we
So
don't even
you
need
get the kids meal. He'll get the regular size popcorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys can go ahead and leave me out of that. Next bit of news.
Then I'm gonna get Pee Wee Herman.
Man did nothing wrong. He was in a porno theater. What are you supposed to do? Not touch yourself in public? Next bit of news. Scanners. Speaking of weird sex stuff, not specifically this movie, but Cronenberg. Scanners. Get a TV show for HBO Max.
All right, on.
Ooh,
That's it for that news.
Cool. Monsters is out. That's news.
Monsters is out. It sucks ass. Don't check it out. Well, maybe check it out. I don't know.
Check it out.
It's coming to Netflix. Why not?
It's on Netflix now.
It's Halloween time. Check it out.
I'm so confused.
Next bit of news. Cloverfield 2. The sequel to Cloverfield.
Electric Boogaloo.
Oh, that's happening?
It is officially in the works with Babak Anvari as director. He did a movie that I think I'm the only one in the room who's seen called Under the Shadow. It's the one that takes place in the Middle East, and it's the mother and the daughter, and yeah.
Yeah, I definitely.
Directing, and yeah, it's supposed to be a sequel to
Cool invite.
the original Cloverfield.
Years ago that you probably watched by yourself in an apartment.
What?
This movie. I said cool invite.
Oh yeah, it was at some point during my unemployment, but yeah, that's officially happening. But I don't know why I didn't order this before that. Constantine, we talked. I think
We
I mentioned
did.
this.
Yeah, I did hear about this with the.
Constantine is getting a sequel with Keanu.
I'm guessing not Shia LaBeouf.
Probably not, because he is literally always in some sort of hot water for some terrible thing that he's done. Don't worry, darling, it's fine. Constantine, getting a sequel. I know that most people are pretty excited about this. We're living in the world with just every iteration of Constantine you could want. You got your blonde man TV show Constantine. You got your Jenna Louise Coleman Constantine in The Sandman. You got your Constantine with your Keanu. If you're into Constantine, Merry Christmas. And Blade Runner is getting a TV show, Blade Runner 2099.
So Blade Runner 1099 is where they do their taxes.
Been talking about that, right?
So they have, it's coming to Amazon Prime. We don't have a release date, but Ridley Scott is producing.
Huh.
So it takes place 50 years after. It makes me a little bit nervous with Ridley Scott being attached, only because I don't know how much he liked Villeneuve's Blade Runner. Like, I haven't seen too much about that, and Scott seems to have that propensity for wanting to ignore the other shit that people have done that's in connection with his stuff.
I don't understand how you could not like it.
2049?
It's just fucking beautiful.
Well, it's really Scott. He's an old man. He probably fell asleep. Yeah. It's a long movie. And then did you guys hear about this? The Strangers is not only getting a remake, it's getting a remake trilogy of movies directed by Rennie Harlin.
Who's that?
Director.
Some other director stuff. Named Rennie Harlin.
Right on.
So it's getting a trilogy. I don't really know who asked.
Did anyone
for this,
give a shit about the second one?
Oh, Rennie Harlin. He's known for Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger, The Long Kiss Goodnight, and Deep Blue Sea.
Okay.
So mixed bag.
Take it or leave it, huh?
Yeah. So I liked the original Strangers well enough. I've tried watching Prey at Night multiple times because people are convinced that movie is like fucking awesome and underrated.
Really?
And I have watched it probably 3 times now and don't get it, but like what people like about it. But
I like the first one.
Yeah, if you're a fan of The Strangers, you're getting 3 more. So Merry Christmas again.
Cool beans.
And
Cool.
Haunted Mansion. You guys ever ridden this ride?
Yep.
Doom buggy?
Bare minimum 100 times.
I love that part where he goes, it's almost like the floor is moving, but the ceiling's getting higher. It's my favorite quote from when you're in the ride. And so, bit of casting news on this. This thing has a stacked cast of ghosts, ghouls, and goblins. Lakeith Stanfield.
Ooh.
Killer.
Sheesh.
Tiffany Haddish.
Funny.
Owen Wilson. Wow.
I don't know who's going to be in that.
Rosario Dawson. From Clerks 2.
and many other things that she's more famously known for.
Right.
Yeah, I actually just watched that recently. 525,600 minutes.
Did you get it right?
Yeah, I think he did.
I did.
He's also a theater kid.
Yeah, we used to sing that all the time.
It's always...
I've never gotten it right.
Yeah, we were hella into...
I love 5,000, 25,500.
5,000.
Yeah, we were hella into people dying from AIDS when I was in high school. And
Jesus.
it's depressing shit. Winona Ryder from Bram Stoker's Dracula. Danny DeVito.
Can you start taking over news?
No.
Danny DeVito from Hercules.
Yeah, I mean,
I accept that, yeah.
And Jamie Lee Curtis from Prom Night. Along with Jared Leto from House of Gucci.
Wow.
Yeah, so pretty stacked, crazy cast.
It's morbid time, y'all.
You guys excited about that we're getting a new Haunted Mansion?
The first one was dog water
I
bullshit.
watched the Muppets one.
Oh, they did do that.
Yeah.
How was that?
Is that good?
It was silly.
I love
the Muppets. I watch Muppets.
I love the ride.
Why don't you marry it?
I would have gotten
there are probably
married
people who have tried. And it was probably very annoying for everybody else waiting to get on the ride.
I saw this video of a guy who tries to marry his imaginary friend.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty fucking funny. He's like, no one sees her like I do.
Literally.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and there's at one point where he was like, I do the cooking, she does the cleaning, and then it pans over and just stacks the dishes. Anyway, I'll send it to you guys.
I like it.
That's funny.
Kevin Smith, fresh off the
Clerks 3?
success, I haven't seen it,
I don't know.
of Clerks 3.
Is this a Smodcastle?
Moose jars?
He is. That's never going to happen. But in that same vein, Tusk 2. He's
Two?
going to make a sequel to Tusk.
So
What's
like one Tusk,
Schmodcastle?
but another Tusk.
What's Schmodcastle?
Smodcastle is he
Say-
bought a theater in New Jersey, and they're gonna start showing movies there. And one of the first ones they're gonna start showing is Tusk.
Because Smodcast is his podcast network, which he also produces his movies through now, since no studio will finance. And also the studios that did finance were the Weinsteins.
Which is why Dogma is still not available to purchase literally anywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
And
it's-
why Kevin Smith donates, like, I think it's something like $2,000 a year. That's like the average of his residuals from all of his Weinstein produced movies to like women's abuse
for him.
charities and stuff. Yeah. Tusk 2. I really like Tusk a lot. I know a lot of people don't like that movie. It's an A24 movie, and a lot of people probably don't realize that. It was in their early days. But
I wasn't a fan.
I really like it. I think that it's weird as shit and has some crazy body horror stuff that I think is done pretty well, and I like Justin Long. In the sequel, Kevin Smith says that he teased a little bit that Justin Long's character will come back. He will be removed from the walrus body and like rehabilitated, but his mind will have been broken. So now he is the man trying to turn other people into animal person hybrids of some sort. So it may not be a walrus again. Something else with tusks. A boar,
a
perhaps.
woolly mammoth.
A woolly man. That would be dope.
That would be dope. They're extinct, so I brought it back.
He kidnaps Ray Romano and turns him into a woolly mammoth.
And Ray wakes up, he's just like, oh.
Sam Raimi, you guys heard of this guy?
Familiar?
Yeah, Sam Raimi, his next directing project was leaked by the producer he's working with. It wasn't an official announcement. The guy was on, I think, the Mark Maron podcast. I was like, I'm so excited to be producing on this movie that Sam Raimi's directing.
I bet he was thinking, WTF, man. That's
Yeah.
the name of Mark Maron's podcast. Is
Yeah,
WTF,
Sam Raimi
Mark Maron.
is directing a remake of the Anthony Hopkins movie Magic, the one with the ventriloquist dummy.
Shit. That's come up in trivia.
Yeah, I've not seen the original in its entirety, but hey, that sounds cool that he's doing something
I'm only aware of
kind of
it
horror related.
because of trivia.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah. So that's all of the news.
So much.
Yeah, that's all of the news. But I do want to do a quick round of trailers. There was a lot of trailers that came out, and I'm just basically gonna, because I watched all of these, so I'm gonna tell you whether they're worth checking out, whether you're safe to check them out, and whether they look cool or not. Hellraiser. Yeah.
Check out the trailer.
Check out the trailer. Briefly, how did you guys feel about this trailer if you watched it?
I haven't seen it yet.
I thought it was cool. I watched it again. I'm actually kind of excited for it.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it's going in a slightly different direction. And those movies are very campy and goofy. And this one does seem like the tone's a little bit more serious with it.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that
I've
because
never
of
known
what
my
Hulu
tone to be
did
serious.
with Prey, they're able to kind of do something with this that is enjoyable.
Yeah, taking good directors who maybe are not getting the funding from big studios that they need, but they're getting funding from these streaming services, like Dan Trachtenberg. I really like the director for this, whose name I literally always forget, something Bruckner. He did The Ritual and The Night House, which I enjoyed The Ritual quite a bit, and I thought The Night House was fine.
Night House had good parts.
Yeah. The Last of Us trailer. You into video games? Anybody in here a video game geek?
I played The Last of Us. I didn't play the second one, though.
I love The Last of Us.
Well, then I guess
think-
it wasn't The Last of Us. They made a fucking sequel, huh?
Yeah, fucking liars. You can't trust these big studios, man. You
Alright.
can't trust them.
I haven't seen it. Haven't seen the trailer.
It is Pedro Pascal and the little girl from Game of Thrones who played the like really tough little girl.
The Mormont.
The
Yeah.
Mormont girl. Yeah, I love The Last of Us. This basically just looks like they, for whatever reason, remade the video game with people. And that's fine if you're into that kind of thing. To me, it looks like The Walking Dead,
Is it zombies?
but on HBO.
Sort of.
Okay.
They're more like spore mutant zombie things. They look pretty cool in the trailer from the brief glimpses that you get. But it
I've
looks
seen a
very
couple
much-
screen grabs of the clickers, and they look pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it just looks like The Walking Dead. And so I wasn't terribly excited. The Winchesters, the prequel series to Supernatural, looks like hot garbage. But I'm also not a diehard Supernatural fan, but just this trailer, I was like, wow, everything looks fucking awful. But if you're a Supernatural fan, give me your opinion on this trailer, because one, I thought it looks terribly shot. All of the lighting is like really, really overblown, like it's basically any Steven Spielberg movie, but not with all the other good shit around it.
I feel like Supernatural happened on WB or CW, whatever it was at the time,
This looks
where-
very much like bottom of the barrel CW as opposed to
where it wasn't
WB.
it wasn't like a teen thing yet. Like Supernatural wasn't like the teeny like Riverdale or Vampire
This looks a
Diaries,
lot
and
more
now-
akin to Riverdale than Supernatural,
curious if that's
but
what-
with Jensen Ackles like narrating, and he like it shows up in the beginning of the trailer, and he's like, "I got to go way back to find out the history of my father and how my mother met." So that's the Winchesters. I'm not gonna watch it. Werewolf by Night. I sent you guys the trailer for this. I don't know if you checked it out, but this is the Marvel Halloween special that's coming out, where it is shot in black and white. It's an homage to like Universal monster movies. It is about a bunch of monster hunters that come to like a mansion for a dinner, and one of them is the werewolf by night, a werewolf man, and all kinds of crazy monster hijinks ensue. I think it is a half-hour, 45-minute special, and it is directed by Michael Giacchino, the composer, who's done the Batman and Star Trek movies and all this stuff. His first directorial thing. So let's hope it doesn't suck. But it looks super cool from the trailer that I saw. M. Night Shyamalan. You guys fans of this guy?
Shyamalan?
Not really.
You guys like a good twist?
Nope. Cinnamon, maybe.
Yeah, me too. He's got a new movie, a horror movie called Knock at the Cabin. Based on a book called The Cabin at the End of the World, I believe. Yeah, because the premise of this is that Jonathan Groff from Mindhunter and Glee and his husband and their daughter, who are actors whose names I don't know off the top of my head, they go to a cabin, and then Dave Bautista and a bunch of other like cultist people show up, and they knock at the cabin and they say, "You guys have to make a terrible choice or the world's going to end." And that's pretty much the whole trailer, and you don't know what the choice is or anything. So I was happy that this didn't give away pretty much anything and leaves it very like, hey, it's an M. Night Shyamalan mystery. I haven't read the book, so I don't know where the mystery is going to go. But the tagline was like, make the choice. Knock at the cabin. So
To see this movie.
Yeah.
Or wait for it to stream.
yeah, I thought Old was, again, hot garbage. But M. Night Shyamalan to me is very hit and miss. And by hit and miss, I mean hit, miss, hit, miss. The Midnight Club had its trailer.
I don't need to watch it.
Don't need it. Yeah, I was
What?
gonna say you don't need to watch the trailer. To me, it's Are You Afraid of the Dark, but shot in Mike Flanagan style, and that's cool. I don't like that.
Well, I'm going to need a pillow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here, you can have my iPad. It
Chucky
leaves me exposed, but
Chucky season 2
Ooh, trailer?
fucking
trailer.
Chucky.
It looks awesome. I'm so excited. They're doing the thing that they're basically doing like a Child's Play 3 or whatever, where all of the kids from the first season are now in like a Catholic school. They like go to a different town to go to a Catholic school for some reason. And the whole thing is like there's like a Lana Del Rey Losing My Religion REM cover playing over it. And of course, Chucky and his horde of other Chuckies infiltrate the school and start viciously murdering people. Nika is there. Tiff is there. Glenn and Glenda are there. There's a really good line where Nika is like, "Yo,
Oh, shit, Glenn and Glenda show up?
yeah, like as
Wow.
the people. Yeah, I think they showed up in the end of the first
Oh,
season.
did
they? Yeah.
So they're main characters now. There's a really good line where Nika's talking about all of the like abuse and everything that she's gone through at Tiffany's hands in the first season. She's like, yeah, she's like done all this stuff to me, and she thinks she's in love with me, and she's crazy, and blah 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 blah. And Glenn is like, "Mom's a serial killer," and then Glenda's like, "Mom's a lesbian." So classic Chucky stuff. There's one part where he's like, I'm the MVP of serial killing. I've killed more people than you have Instagram followers. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Hocus Pocus 2. You guys watch this trailer?
No.
Made me very warm and fuzzy inside because it just looks like Hocus Pocus.
That movie, I think, does a really good job of capturing the spirit of Halloween. Like,
And that's
the
how
town.
this felt from this trailer.
Yeah.
Because everyone who's back from the original, which so far from this trailer, I've only seen the Sanderson sisters and what's his face as the zombie man?
Yeah.
Doug Jones. Is it Doug Jones?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, coming back, and they all just immediately slip back into those roles, and there's enough little like comedic bits in the trailer for me to go like, oh, it's just they fit completely right back in, and it's a bunch of kids with the black flame candle and doing Halloween spooky shit, and I'm very excited for it. So, yeah, that's all I got for news. There was a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah. Was that enough? Do you need more?
Just a smidge.
I can hop
no,
over
that's
to a
good.
Bloody Disgusting real quick. Yeah.
I'm good. I'm all square. All right, great. Well, that's going to wrap it up for Chop Talk. We hope that you stuck with us through that a little long. We were off for a month. If that shit happens, it'll probably get
I
shorter.
tried to spice it up as much as I could. you know?
Dude, I loved it. It was so spicy on the back of my mouth. We're going to get started with that trivia.
That Christmas house of wax, the fog, piranha. It's one of those, right? Right?
Trivia? Are you still doing trivia tunes, or is that bit dead?
I'm down to keep doing it. I don't care.
What do you have? I'm asking if you have one prepped.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then go
See,
ahead.
I was trying to really just like I was like John, come out and sing the song, and he just,
You're like John, come, and then you stop a sentence.
Yee!
Your trivia tune this week is
Oh, here it is.
trivia. So what is it?
It's
people
Three
are
Doors
strange
Down.
when you're a stranger. The strange people are strange.
What's the artist?
Three Doors Down.
The Doors,
It is indeed the Doors.
Down.
The Doors.
named
People are
after
strange.
the Doors of Perception.
Do
by
we know
Aldous Huxley.
why I selected it?
Because you're strange.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you're a big Val Kilmer fan.
Big Val Kilmer fan.
I mean, fair.
It came up in a movie we watched. It's on Terror Tales.
It is on 31 Terror Tunes Volume
Terror
4.
Tunes. What did I say?
So,
Yeah. Hey, do you like music? Great. Do you like spooky stuff? Great. John?
So every year, except for I think the very first year, I put together a playlist of 31 songs with the occasional help of these two fine gentlemen and some other friends and stuff.
Every time.
I was gonna say occasional is a strong word. I've never helped you once.
But I'm always shocked at how many things we come up for these lists. So we have...
I already got stuff for next one.
I love that. We have Ludo again. We also have The Doors, as previously mentioned. We have Harley Poe. We have Wallows. We have Lovecraft.
What's
we
that
have
Bunny Man
Gerard
song?
Way.
How did we miss that one?
Echo and the Bunnymen.
Yeah. How did we miss that for 3 years?
I know, right? I still also think that the fact that we didn't get Nick Cave, Red Right Hand on any of them, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we're pretty dumb.
We have Evil Woman by Electric Light Orchestra. There's a ton of stuff on here.
Not to be
We have
confused
more.
with Medieval.
I would highly suggest to go check it out. It is available on Spotify and on Apple Music.
Yeah. Can we link it?
We can try.
Okay, we're going to try to link it.
We can sure try. But yeah, John does an awesome job with these every year, and
Yeah.
these playlists
With our help.
actually helped me because I had to put together. We're now doing Spotify playlists at my job, and I had to put together a Halloween playlist. So I just went through all of our Terror Tunes playlists and skipped over all the ones that were marked explicit and added your Monster Mashes and your Thrillers and all of that stuff. But it helped me put that playlist together. So thank you, John.
Good job, John.
Happy to help.
Yeah, if you're going to the pumpkin patch, you're going to the corn maze, you're
Spooky.
getting spooky, listen to that playlist. But
Trivia.
First one of the season.
Woohoo! We're playing
let's see
Scary Movie Night In.
let's see just how rusty we've all become.
We're gonna do Q&A for 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds, and then for rounds 5 and 6, we're gonna do Name That Movie.
Yeah, and if you want to join along at home, the louder you scream at your car radio or your computer, the easier it is for us to hear your answers. So make sure you scream extra loud. It's the hills have eyes, you stupid bit. So we can hear it over here.
Yeah. So I will read to Piedmont. Piedmont's gonna read to Anthony, and Anthony will read back to
I
me.
don't like this.
Why don't I get to read to P-Butt?
Piedmont, do you want to switch it up? We can go backward.
No, I don't want to go backward, and I don't want to be referred to as Piedmont or P-Butt.
Yep.
Mumble Thunder.
Well, you know what? Season 5's
Listen,
not about
Mr.
what you
Mumble
want, John.
Thunder, get with the program. Here you go. All right, JP. I have come here
But
to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Is a line from which movie?
They Live.
Yeah.
directed by,
Jean Carpenter.
starring,
Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Ooh,
and
Shit, I'm all out of dick.
No,
here,
he's
boys.
double firsty. Come on.
Oh,
He always gets the names mixed up.
Oh, Keith David.
There you go.
the right order.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm all out of dick here, brother. Anthony, what is the name of the devil child in the 1976 movie The Omen?
Let's see.
The Homan.
Is it All For You, Damien?
No, it's just Damien.
Damien Thorne, I think, is his
Yep.
last name, because that came up on one of our trivias, and I couldn't remember
Mumblethorne.
what his last name.
Damien Thornberry.
All right, Tone, for all the piss and the pee. In which 1973 movie does Donald Sutherland pursue a mysterious figure in a red coat?
Oh, fuck.
Oh, come on, baby. You can get this one.
Oh, baby, you.
God, what I got my dookie chain.
I don't want to mix them up. Because one.
He's got a dookie chain.
Because he got a dookie chain. Fuck.
That's a deep cut.
That is
Yeah.
a deep one. Don't Look Now.
It is Don't Look Now.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Alice, Sweet Alice, right?
I'm just always going to get it confused with, is it Don't Look Up?
Yeah.
The one that came out last year?
Yeah. All right, cool.
Or this
We're
year, whatever.
all on the board. John P. Who played Frankenstein's monster in the 1935 movie The Bride of Frankenstein?
I love how they think that this is like to throw you off. I'm just going to say it's Boris Karloff.
That is correct. Good job, buddy, for twosies. You're a doozy of a toozy.
And what 1999 horror movie is often credited with popularizing the found footage genre?
Can you
year?
repeat the question? I was very preoccupied thinking about a joke where it's like, you know, we always talk about Boris Karloff, but we never talk about Boris Karloff. And yeah, so I didn't even hear it.
trash version because the car is on the lot.
Yeah, I didn't even. Why do you park a car in the driveway? You drive a car in the parkway. That's George Carlin.
Free associated all over the mustache.
Be here anymore. It's the first episode.
You're like, season 5 was a mistake. Abort. Anyway, the question was
What 1999 horror movie is often
The Blair Witch
credited-
Project.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tone.
yeah.
which 2015 Robert Eggboy movie features a Puritan family encountering evil forces in the woods of New England?
Hard to say. The Witch.
It is indeed The Witch, which they spelled with a W here. That's incorrect.
That's VV.
It's Vivitch.
The Vivitch.
So, all tied?
See.
Sick. John. A child vampire called Eli is the star of which 2008 Swedish horror movie?
Let the right one in.
That is correct, sir. For the lead.
Anthony, which horror franchise features a hell priest nicknamed Beanade?
There we go. It's already happening. It's already with a coincidence.
I got
huh?
pins in my head, but don't call me a pinhead. Yeah, that's going to be Hellraiser.
Hellraiser.
Yeah, the Hell Priest. Tone, which 2009 movie is about a deranged surgeon who surgically joins people together?
Is that the Human Centipede?
It is the
human-
Human Centipede.
The human sentai
Got to
half
fish.
sequence
Okay.
or vanilla paste. I refuse to do that accent.
All right. Still tied at 3, everybody. John, which 1996 vampire film stars George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino?
That is From Dusk Till Dawn.
That is correct, sir, for the lead.
That I won't keep for very long. Anthony, which 2002 remake of a Japanese horror film featured a girl climbing out of a television?
I do remember that I had a very particular sting while watching this movie. Is that The Ring?
It is The Ring. It's the Sting of the Ring.
The Sting of the Ring.
Tone.
Yes.
Which 1973 folk horror film is set on the Scottish island of Summer Isle.
Sorry, that's pronounced fuck lore.
Yeah, which fucklore horror film?
Mine are kind of tricky compared, huh?
Yeah.
I want to say.
Can you read it one more time?
Which 1973 folk horror film is set on the Scottish island of Summer Isle?
The only thing that's coming to mind is The Wicker Man.
Ooh, sorry. It's actually The Wickerman. As the card puts it.
Wait, what does it say?
The Wickerman.
The Wickerman.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
but
I'm
you
good.
got it.
Yeah, you got it.
We're all tied. If we get through these last two and we're tied, I'm calling it a tie.
Yeah, I think this is the season of let's not make this go on any longer than it needs to go.
All right, John, we're switching to Name That Movie. How this works is there are words on here I cannot say, and I have to try to get you to say the title of the movie.
Is that because your vocabulary's poor?
Yes.
Okay.
See.
You literally can't read what's on the card.
All right. What I'm going to try to do is give you 3 words and see if they work.
Yeah. That's the
Okay.
more challenging way to
Yeah.
do it.
Scissors. Beach. And what's another one? Red.
Would that be Jordan Peele's Us?
That is correct. All right.
From the
I feel like
vision.
it's more a testament of the person reading the card than the person guessing. You know what I mean? Like, it's a team.
From the visionary mind of visionary director Jordan Peele. They're coming out with a box set of all 3 of his movies that I'm pretty stoked about.
How fucks with it?
People are wanting him to direct the new Blade because the director just dropped out and they're supposed to go into production in like
Ooh, why?
a month.
Drama.
Yeah, something. Creative differences.
You okay?
I'm thinking. So
About some orange
for
juice?
Don't try too
for
hard,
yours,
bro. He's concentrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so for yours, I'll try to do the 3 words thing as well. See how it goes.
Yeah, I think we should all do that.
It's tough, though.
Sentient muscle vehicle.
Oh.
Sentient muscle vehicle.
Think about that there are words that I can't say.
What? Oh, the words I couldn't say were Peel, Lupita, and Double. So basically, a whole movie.
You could have said doppelganger and it wouldn't have counted.
Yeah, but I don't know. What are your words? Well, let me see them. Yeah. I was like, why didn't you say that? And that's fine.
The muscle part, I think, is what's throwing me.
I think that would have thrown me too a little bit.
So think about vehicles.
Uh-huh.
Think about a particular type of vehicle that typically has muscle in front of it.
With a particular set of skills.
Oh, like a muscle car?
I can neither confirm nor deny whether or not you're all over it.
Well, if muscle car was one word, what's another word you'd throw in there to help me out?
King.
Okay, yeah.
Is it Christine?
Isn't going to need Christine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's car, murder, and carpenter.
Gotcha. Okay.
They had car covered on all angles. I was going to say car or carpenter.
So for car, I would have also gone vehicle. For carpenter, I would have said Jesus.
Jesus vehicle. Is it the Pope Mobile?
Jesus Christ.
I don't know, but did he
Christine.
shit in the woods?
Yes. I was just there. He was like, hey, what's up?
It's actually my favorite passage of the Bible. When Jesus shits in the woods.
Ebal?
Tone, yours is road trip, which I'll consider one word. Road trip. Cannibal.
Okay.
Family.
That's a dope band name. Road Trip Cannibal Family.
Hey, we're Road Trip Cannibal Family.
Well, I'm a little bit torn.
Yeah.
Like Rip?
I also did. I also chose a word that might have thrown you off. Cannibal,
So-
family, and southern.
I'm gonna say Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Are you gonna say Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
The Texas Chainsaw.
Okay, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay, you're correct.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was Hills Have Eyes. Are they cannibals?
Oh, that
It
road,
also-
road trip would definitely go down the
It
Hills
also
Have
could
Eyes
have
road a little bit
could have
more.
been Devil's Rejects too, because
yeah?
they're the cannibals
Are they
on the road trip. Yeah, they make people into food and shit.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Pretty sure the Firefly family are they're
in House of a Thousand Corpses, yes. In Devil's Rejects, I don't think it's as touched on. They're more just Devil's Rejects.
yeah
Okay.
all tied.
Fuck. Okay. Fuck. All right. I'm just trying to narrow it down to 3
So
words.
that's 2 words: fuck,
Fuck.
and fuck.
Fuck.
Very different.
And I'm gonna hit you with the third fuck.
Okay. Footage. Micah. And Katie. Is
Yeah,
that right?
I know it immediately.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Right?
Hmm?
Okay.
I think they pronounce it Mika in the
Mika?
movie, and that always threw me.
Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
Did that help you? Me
Yeah.
saying that?
You couldn't make the jump from Mika to Micah? Fuck you.
Completely
wrong? Okay.
That
good.
just depends on, you know.
That was good though. All right, hit me.
This is hard.
I like it though. I like it hard.
All right, so your 3 words are Latin, ghoul, complex.
A Latin. Let me see. What? All right. I guess.
Latin ghoul complex. Sounds like something my therapist would tell me I'm suffering from.
I would.
You have a
I would
Latin
say
ghoul complex.
Work through it backwards.
Uh,
The old LGC. Yeah. You know me.
The Cabin in the Woods. I have no clue. Latin ghoul complex.
So it's found footage.
Oh, wreck.
Yeah.
I was thinking like Latin.
I
Like
cou- I-
Latin, like
so-
you're like. Yeah.
I literally couldn't say Spanish.
Oh, what couldn't I say? Haunted camera ghost.
I just did synonyms for everything. It was Spanish, zombie, apartment. So Latin, ghoul, complex.
Yeah, I don't blame you for that. I don't know if I get that point or not because I said Cabin in the Woods, so doesn't matter.
I felt like at the word complex. I felt like was just
Give me a complex.
filler word.
Well, because I was imagining like the big underground ghoul complex from Cabin in the Woods. I'm telling you guys, I'm suffering from a severe ghoul complex. Tone, your 3 words are
Latin, ghoul,
are
complex.
period, moon,
Okay.
um,
What the fuck is the name of that movie?
Come on, baby, you got this.
um,
Let him get a third word.
Cookies.
cookies. Yeah,
Ginger snap.
it is Ginger Snaps.
Wish that I could be like.
Yeah,
the
I couldn't say
cookies.
for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I couldn't say Leatherface. I don't know why. Like that would give it away.
don't know.
Chainsaw or Slasher, and for Ginger Snaps, I couldn't say Wolf Teen Sister, which is really just the description of that movie. But
You say I had it from period, just so you know.
no, I knew. Yeah, because we've always made that joke. It's my favorite period piece.
Oh, that was good. All right, cool. Well, that's what it is. It's a tie.
Tie boys.
It is what it is.
We're gonna leave it there.
Yeah. So if you screamed loud enough, we heard all of your answers. Good job to some of you. Terrible job to others. Wow, you really suck at this game.
Oh my god. Y'all did great.
Yeah.
Cool.
You're all
good.
winners in my eyes.
That'll wrap it up for trivia. If you're a payer, then you get no ads, and you're going to get your main discussion right now. And if you're not a payer, if you're a freeloader, then you're going to get some ads right now.
Ads. Hit the button. Ads. Ads.
Developers.
Join the Creep Cult. $5 a month at patreon.com/Porcelain Peak for exclusive content, merch discounts, and more. Join the Creep Cult. $5 a month at patreon.com/Porcelain Peak for exclusive content, merch discounts, and more.
Hey, you want to see something really scary?
Hey, welcome back.
Ooh, chain rattle.
I think I gotta throw in
Any more buttons on the soundboard?
Ooh, zombie brains.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
Blood sucking ghoul.
Yeah, it was just an indistinct ghoul for a little bit.
Indistinct
Yeah.
All right, we are starting our 31 Terror Tales. 31 Terror Tales 22.
Ooh, chain rattle.
Even more alliteration for you. And if you don't know already, we are doing children's horror this week, deep cuts from The Masters next week, then Stephen King, and then, to wrap it up, The Living Dead with a bonus trilogy at the end of the month.
Yeah, it may be themed around a certain holiday that happens in October.
Silent Night, Deadly Night 1, Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, and Nightmare Before Christmas.
You're like, and Troll 2 for some reason?
And Tron.
Here's your hint. Austin Powers, Shrek.
I was out of school the other day. This kid was talking about Michael Myers, and he was like, "Michael Myers, the murderer." I was like, "Oh, thanks for clarifying."
Imagine if we ended Terror Tales with the Austin Powers trilogy.
I mean, that'd be kind of tight.
We can do whatever we want. Season 5.
Yeah, but
We're just a podcast. Anyway, real quick, the movies that we watched this week are Monster House, Coraline, Return to Oz, Ernest, Scared Stupid, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, Little Nemo, don't get it confused, and Something Wicked This Way Comes. And if you're not familiar with how this works, we watch one horror movie a day for the month, more or less.
And then typically these discussions will go through. We each will pick one that we want to discuss at like much further detail, and the other ones we will still talk about, but we'll talk about probably in
Briefly, yeah.
More of a short form.
More of like if
concept.
we recommend it or not.
yeah, and this category was awesome to see everybody's comments on, because everybody has their own experience with like what children's horror movies really freaked them out when they were younger, and there were some a few on this list that I had never seen, and some that I was really excited to go revisit. But I love this genre because it gets me into that, turning on ABC Family and watching the 31 Nights of Halloween, or and all of the horror for children programming that TV used to have when I was younger. So I had a very good time with this week's picks.
Yeah, I mean, we've had weeks in the past where it's like, this fucking sucks, and this is a slog, and this week was not like that. Hard for me just because I have had internet issues. But got them all in, except Coraline,
That's the true adult horror.
which I've seen. Yeah, so we want to talk about, in more depth, Little Nemo, correct?
Yes.
And Zombie Island, correct?
Yep.
And
Caroline.
Caroline. So then, first up on the list is Monster House. This one is available on Netflix. You can watch it right meow if you have Netflix. I've seen this movie before. I think you've seen this movie before. This is your first exposure to it. I have liked it, loved it, whatever, since the first time I watched it. This time, I did notice the animation was like a little stiff.
Mm-hmm. It's
outside of the house, which you pointed out to me. Like, the house looks really good, but everything else is kind of like, let's put the budget there.
This movie is literally, there once was a house. Just sitting there.
Yeah, but this movie's fucking hilarious. It's basically nonstop, really funny references to stuff that you've probably seen as an adult, and has some pretty good horror moments. And it's Halloween based.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I had commented that the reason that this ended up being so funny was because Dan Harmon of Community and Rick and Morty fame wrote the screenplay. I'm actually incorrect on that fact when I shared it with you guys. He did write a screenplay, but the one that ended up on screen is pretty much nothing like what he originally wrote. He came out in an interview years later saying that that this movie sucked and was completely butchered, and that Steven Spielberg is a hack because he produced it, and Zemeckis produced it, and that the director was a hack and all this stuff.
Wow.
Dan Harmon's a big fucking pussy.
He's an
Um,
egotistical person.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I think that this movie is a ton of fun. It has some good, like, emotional beats toward the end. I love Steve Buscemi in literally anything. So him as the old man in this was very cool. I love that you get the classic, like, the old man seems really scary, but then when you peel back the layers, it turns out he's not really that scary.
Turns out he's an ogre.
Yeah, I think...
He turns out he's a broom.
yeah. I thought that Mitchell Musso from Hannah Montana fame was really great as the main character. Yeah, all the kids are awesome. It really captures that Halloween spirit. I didn't mind the animation as much. It reminded me of something like Star Wars Rebels, where like the characters look very much like they're just action figures being posed around, but it doesn't quite capture that stop motion magic. In some places it does. It seems like a weird cross between Zemeckis' motion capture stuff with like Christmas Carol and Polar Express and Beowulf and all that stuff, mixed with the Leica stop motion 3D stuff. So it's kind of like a weird mutant in between, but I still really enjoyed it. I think a lot of the camera work, like that's something that I think a lot of people don't really pay attention to when they're watching an animated movie, is what the camera does, because they just assume like, why should that matter? It's all made in a computer, or it's all being drawn. It's like, no, the camera does some pretty cool stuff where it's like swooping through porches and through railings of houses and following the kids, and makes it feel like a pretty awesome, like Spielbergian, which makes sense. He produced it. It's an Amblin movie. Spielbergian kids adventure. So it kind of felt like an animated Stranger Things of sorts, just on a smaller scale with a creepy house across the street. And we've all lived in a neighborhood that, well, most of us that had like a creepy house that everybody said was haunted or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it gets to that like kids on bikes kind of vibe way before something like Stranger Things even was a thought, which I think is pretty cool. Like I enjoyed it.
Bobby Brown was even conceived.
I enjoyed it. You know, as a first time watch, I felt like like you said, the animation is a little bit of a weird uncanny territory. It kind of reminded me of like early Jimmy Neutron episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Where it kind of has that like
That's that Boy Genius, right?
That very early like computer generated animation style to it.
Reboot, dude. Maybe not as bad.
But I think that where it shines is the storytelling that goes along with it. I mean, it does, you know, at the end of it, it does kind of have some of those like tropey, you know, conversations, but those are mostly things you're going to get from any children's movie.
The journey is so fun and exciting that
it's well worth any of the
matter.
little parts that might be, you know, not necessarily up to an adult's viewing experience.
Yeah, so big recommend for me.
Yeah.
If you have kids or if you're just a silly adult like the three of us.
Yeah, and I don't
big
think that
recommend.
this is staying on Netflix for too much longer. It may only be up for a couple more days. I think it might be the end of September. But if you can't find it on Netflix, you'll find it somewhere else. Usually these things just hop around streaming services, but highly recommend.
Yep.
You guys want to talk a little bit about Coraline?
Coraline. She's a friend of mine. Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about gaming recently.
Yeah.
Neil specifically.
yeah, I was going to say gaming is always a big topic on our show, but...
and this is based off a story that he wrote. This
a novella,
is also...
which is a girl novel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so based on
Directed by...
Henry Selick.
Harry Selick of Nightmare Before Christmas fame and James and the Giant Peach. And Monkey Bone, if you're nasty.
Starring Dakota Fanning as Coraline.
Terry Thatcher.
With Terry Thatcher as
the mother.
And Judge John Hodgman as the father. And Ian McShane as Mr. Bobinski. And lots of other people.
The cat?
No, the cat is Keith David.
Oh, that's right.
From Firestarter. Yeah. But yeah, I had seen this movie before. The first time I saw it was in theaters, and it did not click with me the first time I saw it for whatever reason.
Really?
I find that shocking.
It is shocking because I have always, since I was very young, been a huge stop motion fan, specifically The Nightmare Before Christmas. So when I saw the trailers for this, I was like, this is going to be my bread and butter. And I remember for some reason walking out and going like, that was too weird. Like,
really?
Yeah, like something about it just really didn't click. And then I've watched it a couple times since then and knew I loved it. But every time I go back to this movie, not only are Leica movies just... I haven't seen Missing Link, I think, which is their newest one. Or
Missing Link is actually really good.
I'm sure it is. I just haven't gotten around to seeing it. But
it was in the Oscar conversation a few years ago. Like I think it was the year where I watched literally everything that was nominated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
But love Coraline, love Paranorman, love Kubo and the Two Strings.
Come on, forget about
Yeah,
it.
so Leica is an awesome stop motion animation studio. This movie is fucking phenomenally gorgeous. Down to like, I was reading that for the blossoms that are falling around, they took pieces of popcorn and broke them up into tiny little pieces and painted the like outside portions light pink and then the inside portions red to make blossoms. And for all there's these scenes with like all kinds of fog draping everything, and I was like, that's real fog. Like that what? And of course they used like slowed down dry ice fog.
Crazy.
They have stuff in this that you don't really see in a lot of stop motion. Like there's a morphing sequence with the other mother where she transforms into her like monster form, where you're just thinking, how the fuck did they do that in stop motion? And yeah, they had a ginormous fucking studio with like 50 different stages with like 150 sets that they meticulously worked on. Love that the movie takes place in Ashland, Oregon, and that they reference the Shakespeare Festival. When I was in theater in high school, I never got to go, but a lot of our theater gang used to take yearly trips to Ashland for the Shakespeare Festival. So
You gotta rep the set, you know.
Yeah. I think that just like most other Gaiman stuff, this plays the fairy tale thing for a while where you're like, this is a really good little fairy tale story, and then it gets super fucking dark when it gets into dead children and buttons being sewn onto eyeballs and souls being stolen and people being kidnapped, and yeah, it gets very dark. But I love everything about this movie, and that's why I wanted to make it my pick.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think Coraline is fantastic, and yeah, like you said, I love stop motion. It's always been one of my favorite things. This might be one of, if not my favorite stop motion movie, just because it's so fucking weird, but it's also really fun.
Well, especially after re-talking about Nightmare Before Christmas, as much as I love that movie, I think this movie has so much more going on in terms of the story and the it's not a big musical like Nightmare Before Christmas, but there's so many good comedy moments and dark moments, and the animation is obviously so much more advanced than something like Nightmare Before Christmas, but it still has that. Just nothing beats handmade shit. Like when you can watch a movie and the whole time you're just marveling at how human beings were able to put this together and make it as ethereal and gorgeous and ridiculous looking as it is. It's just like, holy shit.
I forgot
Crazy.
I was Coraline for Halloween.
Yeah.
I think that for me, I mean, I don't really compare them to something like Nightmare, because I feel like Nightmare, it's its own kind of like jumping off point for a lot of people who start to kind of get into stop motion and things like that. And I feel like what it doesn't capture in like a really deep storyline, it captures in beautiful music, and just Danny Elfman speaking a language to people that is hard to put together and really easy to understand if you're in the know. And then just like I said, that macabre setting. But I think that with Coraline, what you get, like I said, is this really deep, intricate story that twists you and turns you kind of at different places, and makes you feel really, really terrified. I think that it really captures the essence of what you're looking for from children's horror.
Yeah, I don't know if this has changed since Sandman came out, but Gaiman said for a long time that this is his favorite adaptation of any of his works, which I don't blame him, because I haven't read the book, but looking through the synopsis on Wikipedia today, this is pretty faithful. The only big changes they made is she makes a couple extra trips back and forth between the two worlds, and they added the YB friend character to give her someone to talk to, so she's not just narrating the whole thing to herself. But outside of that, it's predominantly the same story and gets across. Neil Gaiman always makes me think about, like, obviously things like death, but also just things like your parent. Like, this movie makes me think about like my parents or my grandparents, and like times where I thought, I can't stand them, blah, blah, blah. And then, now you look back as an adult, and I'm sure that's what Neil Gaiman was doing when he wrote this, was looking back as an adult at how he felt about his parents and thinking, they may not have been perfect, but they were my parents, and in their hearts, they loved me and cared about me, and they were just flawed human beings. And maybe this picture perfect, idealized version of what I think the world should be like is not a realistic thing, and can be dangerous to live in a fantasy world like that. Obviously, if that fantasy world is inhabited by the Beldam, and she wants to, she's a spider witch who wants to steal your soul, then you got problems. But
I got 99 problems, and a spider witch is one.
I want that tunnel that she crawls through. It's so cool looking. when it's got all the purple and blue like
Right.
lights around it and stuff. And I was like, I just want that as a way to get from like my front door to my bedroom. Like every day, just like, oh, going through the Coraline tunnel.
You're just gonna stand on the outside like, the fuck are you doing?
But little details that I never caught before, like when Coraline in the beginning of the movie is talking about how when her friends come to visit, she wants there to be things growing there, and she puts out a bunch of like, she has little seed packets that she's organizing. All of those seeds end up being the plants that are in the other world that the other mother actually and the father have grown. The father character is based off of Ted Raimi, supposed to look like Ted Raimi, down to wearing a Michigan State sweater. Just like Ash's girlfriend in Evil Dead does.
Wow, right on.
So little Evil Dead references if you're a fan of that, which
Yeah.
Guess you could say.
yeah, so this really just like, you know, Neil Gaiman, Henry Selick, stop motion, dark but also like fun children's styling. What isn't to love?
High recommend from you then?
Absolutely.
High recommend from me as well.
Recommend of the highest order.
All right.
Garcon, we'll take 3 recommends.
3 recommends. What else we got? Coming up next, we got Return to Oz. So I've heard different things about this movie.
If you
And,
look in the background, there's a munchkin hanging himself.
Is that
But for real in this one.
not what we've been calling like when you pull your nutsack out.
Hanging munchkin.
Hanging munchkin.
Yeah.
That's
Is that true?
So that's an urban legend from the original
Right,
Wizard of
right,
Oz,
yeah.
and it's just a bird in the background
Yeah.
that everybody so I was joking.
Okay.
And this one was actually a munchkin hanging.
This movie's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, so I wanted
It's
I wanted
very
to give
fucked up.
I wanted to give a quick description. So, if
Can you? Is it possible?
Dorothy, who is
no.
now younger.
that's not what I'm doing. I'm comparing it to what's original source material. So, if you're looking at the Wizard of Oz as like a really well put together like LSD trip,
Whimsical fantasy.
yes, this is like
Technicolor
if-
explosion.
if 60 to 70 years later you asked those same writers to come up with another story, but the drugs of choice was very poorly going between black tar heroin and meth.
Yeah.
Because holy fucking shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of
It's just-
psychosis in this movie.
So fucking weird, dude.
So weird. It doesn't capture the same whimsy as the first one. It's not a musical. It ages Dorothy down, but she's going back to Oz. I don't know if it's actually supposed to be a sequel or if its own thing.
So this is
But-
I looked a little bit into this because Adrian actually asked me because I mentioned because she's a big fan of The Craft, and I was like, oh well, little Fairuza Balk is Dorothy in this movie, and she
Vicky
looked up-
Valancourt?
Yeah, and she looked up a picture and she was like, oh, she looks really young in that, and it's supposed to be a sequel. She had the same question, so I looked into it. In the original novels, Dorothy is around like 9 to 10 at the most in those first couple novels. Then when they were casting the Wizard of Oz, Dorothy is supposed to be about 12 years old in that movie, but Judy Garland was like 16. It makes sense because they wanted somebody who was a well-known performer who they knew that
Right.
they could abuse into doing what they wanted.
And they also wanted to
did.
be able to have
Yeah.
somebody to basically make one of the greatest songs ever put to movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no Somewhere Over the Rainbows in this movie, but
So
Ain't
basically, she
rainbows
goes
at
to a
all.
mental institution because she is having all these thoughts about being in Oz.
yeah, and I really liked this a lot as an idea. It's very fucked up if you're expecting Wizard of Oz, but I don't like. I grew up with Wizard of Oz, and I think it's obviously a great classic movie, but I don't have a strong emotional connection to like. It's got to feel like the original movie. I was like, cool, it felt kind of like, Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, where I'm like, yeah, this doesn't need to be just like the Alice in
I
Wonderland.
think it's a little further.
No.
Yeah.
I'm saying in terms of like taking the source material
concept,
and taking
yeah.
a darker, different look at that world and having, coming at it from a different perspective. I like the idea of like, oh, maybe the first time she went to Oz, it did feel like this magical escapist place, and then now that she's had a little bit more of like the real world encroaching on her dream of Oz, now when she goes back to Oz, it's all fucked up as a
Yeah.
reflection. And
My
things are
idea
not-
was she gets lobotomized.
well, yeah,
And then-
immediately I was like, when they go to do the shock therapy thing
Yeah,
on her,
and
this
that's-
entire thing is her being brain dead or
Yeah.
shocked or whatever.
And Ozma is her other part of her now, like the whimsy is now leaving her, and
Yeah.
that's like the send off of her childhood, and now she's just like.
I think that's 100% legitimate way to interpret the movie.
So at
That's
the
how
end of
I
it, was like,
interpreted it.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I think if I had watched this when I was a kid, I think it would have also sent my childhood with it.
So, yeah. So I can see why this freaked a lot of people out. There's a lot of just really
It's so weird.
over the top, weird, horrific imagery. There's obviously there's the wheelers or whatever.
Yeah.
The guys that go around on weird bike wheels. They're
Yeah,
like Cirque
the
du Soleil
crackheads.
performers. Yeah. And they obviously they make the same sound that the gurney that she's being pushed around in the mental hospital does, the wheels creaking. And then she has this, she's in at one point in like the hallway with all of the heads on the pedestals. We get a pumpkin-headed character that reminded me of Merv Pumpkinhead from Sandman. And
Or Jack Skellington.
Jack Skellington.
Yeah. Which I'm pretty sure Jack Skellington is a ripoff of the character from the Halloween Tree.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All these
or
people
not really,
are...
homage, I guess I should say.
All
Yeah.
these creepy weirdos are cribbing off of each other.
Right. I mean, but I was like, well, it kind of follows a similar storyline because she gets a Tin Man, she gets a Scarecrow, and she gets a lion.
Yeah.
Essentially, I was like, all right, I don't know. It's weird.
It reminded me of something
50-50 on
more
it.
akin to like the Dark Crystal or...
Like a more fucked up Labyrinth.
Yeah, where it's
It's
more
like
about
low
like look at
budget.
the weird shit we made for this movie and
Yeah.
doesn't really have a coherent story. Like I was joking, try to tell me what the fuck this movie is about beyond the beginning setup and the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
And it even ends on a similar note where
She's
she has
trying
to go.
find the Scarecrow who has now taken over Oz. But is
Yeah,
that,
he's like the mayor of Oz.
and that's in the books, but
But that's not in.
in the
movie.
in the OG, yeah.
So is it supposed to be a sequel? I don't know if we ever got to that. Is it supposed to be a sequel to?
I don't think that technically they had like the rights to make it
I
a
see.
legitimately direct sequel, but it has things that are directly from that movie, like the ruby slippers, because in the original book they're not ruby slippers, they're just like diamond slippers and they're silver or whatever. So there are obvious things that are supposed to be taking from that original movie, but it reminded me of something like Dr. Sleep, where it's like, yeah, I'm both adapting the Stephen King book, but I'm also taking all of the elements from the Stanley Kubrick movie, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what this felt like, where it's like, we're going to do more of an adaptation of these two Oz books, because those books do get really, really weird. I remember reading them as a kid and being like, what the hell is going on in these?
Yeah.
So it takes those elements and then tries to borrow some of the goodwill elements from the original Oz, and it didn't really work for me.
It doesn't do nearly as much of the gymnastics that were required to make Dr. Sleep as good a movie as it was.
Yeah, this is a very strange comparison to be making, but like it just
It
popped
works.
into my head. of,
It
like,
works. It's literally the right description.
Yeah, but it didn't really work for me just because I was really into it in the beginning with the concept where I was like, cool, we're going to do like, what if this was all in her head and maybe now that she's being electroshocked, she's imagining a darker version of Oz. That's cool. And then it just gets so like convoluted and weird with all these different added characters and elements. I did think
chicken's got a shit in your mouth.
and the chicken was so fucking annoying, but yeah, and there's all these rock faces talking like
Yeah.
chicken. I thought Fairuza Balk was good. For the most part, but outside of that, I didn't really care about anything else that was going on. I was just like, that looks creepy. That looks creepy. That looks creepy. And if you're a kid, that's all you need to be like, that this is scary and I'm going to remember it forever. But coming from a perspective of having never seen it and coming into it as an adult,
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't doing anything for
I think
me.
that's a good point to make.
Yeah, well, a lot of the things that are on this list of 7 movies are in more of the territory of like horror can show up in unexpected places rather than being out and out horror films. This is the most that feels that way. Like there are parts of
Well, it feels like they're going out of their way to try to freak kids out instead of like making something that's kind of borderline creepy. Like a lot of these things don't feel like Monster House doesn't feel like it's going out of its way to like really traumatize kids. This feels like it's really trying to traumatize kids.
yeah.
That was
Yes.
It feels kind of like a mean-spirited movie.
Yeah,
my
I mean,
opinion.
my thought is like if you want to watch it with your kids, sure, but I don't know. I'm like on the
Don't
fence
show them
about-
The Wizard of Oz and then show them this.
I'm kind of on the fence about a recommendation because I don't know that I would ever watch this again. Really,
I won't. I wasn't rushing to watch it because I.
sorry.
Do you have a fart ringtone or a door creak?
the dog.
It's Ziggy.
Oh,
It's my dog grumbling.
okay.
Yeah, that shit goes off sometimes when I'm in meetings, and I'm like, God damn it.
It's just my
It's
stomach.
my dog. It's my dog. My dog had my gas.
But if you want to check it out, it's on Disney Plus. Shocking that it's a Disney movie, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend it unless you have nostalgia for it and you're doing a revisit.
Fair enough. All right.
Speaking of things that we have nostalgia for, let's talk about Ernest Scared Stupid.
Ernest Scared Stupid. Have you guys seen this before? No, right?
So
I
I'm
saw-
pretty sure I have, because I grew up with Ernest. My dad's a huge
Okay.
Ernest fan. I grew up with all of these movies, but I don't remember a
Yeah.
single fucking thing about them beyond just like Ernest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Almost
this-
exactly the same.
I think the story
Yeah.
of Ernest is fucking crazy because he started off as a commercial character.
yeah, he was just
Yeah.
a dude that showed up doing all kinds of different commercials for like
Yeah.
Pizza Hut,
And then they were like, let's
insurance
make movies. And Jim Varney is like a Shakespearean trained actor.
well, you can tell in some of the parts of this movie that he obviously has acting chops.
He
that
plays like literally like 60 different characters in one scene.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
wild.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Jim
and then-
Varney you might know from this, and if you don't know him from this, then you probably know him as Slinky Dog from Toy Story.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it that I know of. I mean, I'm sure he's got some deeper cuts, but really, these are the two things you're going to recognize him from.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with this and some of the other Ernest movies.
Yeah,
I didn't realize there's 10 of them.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's like 7 too many, probably.
And I assume that they're not really connected. It's just Ernest is in a new place doing new weird shit, and this
Yeah.
one happens to be
Talking
Halloween
to a
themed,
person who
and
doesn't exist.
he's hanging out with a bunch of kids, which these days would not fly.
Dude, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I feel like when we were kids, like with Goosebumps or with Are You Afraid of the Dark or some of these movies, that's always like the kids going to an adult and like having this adult be part of, even with Under Wraps.
Yeah.
Like this random shop owner is now palling around with these kids, and it's like, you just cannot do that anymore. And yeah, I was thinking the same thing. That's so funny. But I mean, I like this movie. I think it's very silly, very much for kids. But to me, this captures like the horror for children.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult movie to not enjoy, like because it's just like
He's so charming.
yeah, and while it can be like I felt that it was a little bit too much for my sensibilities.
As a 30-year-old man.
Yeah, as a 30-year-old man, after a while, because he is pretty much just doing the same bit for the whole movie. But I do like when he gets to flex a little bit and play like the witch trial demon guy in the beginning, and I was like, oh shit, that's Jim Varney, and then he plays all of the different like
The people you're talking about the Ottoman Empire and shit. He's like fucking 60 different people.
Also, wouldn't fly him doing basically like Asian face like paint or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. It's kids going on a adventure, basically building tree houses, fighting trolls. Ernest is there just to be like
That lady in the movie looks like the orange character from the Star Wars sequels.
Oh, Maz Kanata.
Yeah.
That's so weird you say that because I just watched Force Awakens last night.
And I was like, oh, there she is.
Oh, Miss Butthole Eyes. Yeah. Yeah, that's Eartha Kitt, and to me, she's the best part of the movie. Eartha Kitt is always the best part of most. She's most people will probably know her as either Catwoman from the old '60s Batman or Yzma from Emperor's New Groove, or Madame Zeroni from Holes.
You got to go.
This one's a
them
big
holes.
recommend from me.
I would say it's at bare minimum a light recommend from me. I think that you got to be in the right mood for this kind of a movie, but if you are in that mood, it strikes. It's very funny.
I think if you're looking for a children's horror movie, it hits that mark.
yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, that's pretty my disclaimer for my recommendation is just that like, yeah, I probably wouldn't go watch this most times of the year, but there are some movies that are just fun to put on during the Halloween season, and this is one of them. I can see why it's a staple for a lot of people for the Halloween season, because yeah, I'm not always looking for high class, really well done horror during the Halloween season. I want to watch a dude building a troll trap and then getting his hand stuck in it and doing a triple take before he starts screaming like he's a Looney Tune. There's just I was cracking up and I was having a good time, and it reminds me of being a kid.
With Rimshot.
Yeah, Rimshot's a cute dog.
You know what I mean?
I just kept thinking he was saying rim job the whole time. Hey, rim job.
Rimjob.
Yeah, but I had a great time with it. I'd recommend it. It's available to rent if you want to do that.
All right, John, hit us with that. A Scooby Dooby Doo.
Racker rice.
A roll? Where? I was like, dude, that's my dog.
So, I grew up with Scooby-Doo. I'm sure that everyone in the
Just
room.
in general?
Yes, just in
Oh,
general.
yeah.
So like the Scooby Doo Where Are You series from the 70s or 80s. I grew up with that shit. Like I like
That and a
reruns.
pup. Did you fuck with a pup?
You
Phrasing.
can't pause like that for the audio listeners. They're gonna be like, did my audio cut out?
with a pup?
So a pup named Scooby Doo. I watched. I think I watched all of it. Yeah.
That's how I learned what a red herring is.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
I fucked with that show heavy. Like I had like I had.
So you could say it, but I can't.
I said I fucked with the show heavy.
Yeah, he fucked with the pup.
So I had like pajamas. Like I had a bunch of shit on VHS.
Oh,
but
Scooby Doo or just in general?
Scooby Doo.
Okay.
So
Pajamas.
so there
These are my
aside aside from stuff like Pup Named Scooby Doo, there wasn't really any like new Scooby content for like a long time. It was always just the reruns of the old
You
classic.
missed out on What's New Scooby Doo. What's New Scooby Doo was
No,
also dope.
I'm talking about before like that. I think came out after Zombie Island.
They had that weird period where they were making like the movies where Shaggy had a red shirt.
Yeah,
And he was a werewolf in one.
Yeah. I remember those.
was
But
always weird,
those were
yeah.
like just offshoots because they didn't have the rest of the gang. It was literally just the two of them.
Yeah.
But it was like a weird time where they like were like, oh, we're gonna try to strike the iron on the nostalgia while it's hot because it's doing well on the ratings, all the reruns. So let's make a movie. So they make this movie with
a critically acclaimed movie, right?
yeah. But they have like little weird like 90s nuggets. Like the music is all done by like 90s bands of the time.
Yeah, I think Third Eye Blind, right? Is that right?
It feels very similar
the
to
intro.
how the music was in the original Scooby Doo, though, where they'd always have those kind of like Beatles or like the Monkees sounding like songs playing whenever they'd be running through the hallways. And this was just like, the 90s updated version of that same
Exactly,
bit.
yeah.
And it feels that way because of how the story progressed. I also realized that the Scooby Doo live action movie definitely just ripped off a bunch of this movie. The idea of the monsters being real, the idea of the gang.
This is the first time that they're real in the Scooby Doo universe.
And I remember the trailers for this, and it's like, this time the monsters are real.
Oh, yeah,
and I was
scared the
freaked.
shit
Yeah,
out
I
of
was
me
freaked
when I
the
was a
fuck
kid,
out.
yeah.
I was like, holy shit, no way, the monsters are real. And but yeah, and then them all being kind of like gone their separate ways and doing their own thing. Daphne's gone on to be like a reporter, and Velma owns like a mystery bookshop, and Fred's like the producer with Daphne, and then Shaggy and Scooby are just fucking off getting high.
Burnouts.
Yeah. And the movie took a lot of cues from Zombie Island, but
So why was this your pick this week?
It just really so like being one of like the first few like actual Scooby-Doo pieces of content that were made during my lifetime. I fell in love with this shit. I watched it a million times when I was a kid. We recorded it on a VHS. I fucking burnt that motherfucker out. Like,
and then every year during Halloween time, they would always show up on like the 31 nights of Halloween or whatever. You always got your Zombie Island.
Yeah, so this is a classic for me. So I've watched, like I said, I've watched it a billion times. I love like the little touches of like having it be set in the bayou, and like they actually like got some of the stuff right with like the Creole culture and things like that. I think that
Besides
it's dope.
having white people voice all of them. But.
Yeah, that part does suck. But I feel like the kind of like the cat monster quality that we get at the end, and like the different stuff like the voodoo magic. I think that it works really well. The animation still holds up to this day, and I just think that it's a good movie and it's a good time, especially if you liked Scooby Doo.
Yeah, and they just made a sequel to it a couple years ago. Return to Zombie Island.
Yeah, I haven't checked it out, but I was pretty much literally everything you've just said for the past 10 minutes. I'm just going to say ditto to.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
I when I was young, I don't know if you guys had the same experience, but I didn't have like the eye for animation to tell when a cartoon was made back in like the 60s versus when it was made today. I would watch things like the Flintstones and Scooby-Doo and see no difference between that and when I was watching like Dexter and Powerpuff Girls and stuff. Now watching it, old Scooby-Doo has a laugh track. They reuse tons of frames for cheap animation. But it's still fucking iconic. And that, I talked about it, we talk about it endlessly on here. That's one of the things that got me into horror stuff. Because they kind of do a little bit of everything. You got your ghosts, you got your ghouls, you got your witches, and all that. And going back to this, I still cracked up at a bunch of the jokes. I think that the performances are good. It does have a very spooky atmosphere. I like that they take it into somewhere different with the bayou and everything, and I always like that as an atmosphere. Lots of kooky characters, and then the zombies are legitimately pretty creepy, and I like the idea that like when you start seeing them come out, you can tell that they're like old gangsters who may have like drowned in the bayou and tourists, and there's like a history behind this. And then you obviously the big reveal being the cat people, which is a weird left turn for the movie to take, but they're terrifying also. I remember being really scared of the cat people. And it's this whole thing where they're like stealing the souls and luring people in,
and that's the reason why the zombies exist in general.
Yeah, and then it turns out the zombies are the good guys. And you get a bunch of great bits with Scooby and Shaggy eating sandwiches and all that stuff.
This movie
Hot
is
peppers.
really like a NASCAR race, you know what I mean?
It's just all left turns.
Just full of left turns.
That's a reference to our bonus episode over if you join the Creep Cult.
Yeah, where we do NASCAR race reviews.
And if you don't believe us, check it out.
Lightning McQueen's my favorite.
I went into this and I was like, I don't think I've seen this movie. And then as I started watching, I was like, oh, I've definitely seen this movie, but I don't have enough memory of it like you guys do to know where it was going. But
It's like a boomerang. It's all coming back to you.
and it all came back to me.
Boomerang.
And I think I texted you guys like, dude, the music in this slaps. Like,
Yeah.
it's so good. Those songs are so fucking catchy.
Yeah.
Well, the ghost is here and is always a fake. Ghost is here.
Yeah.
So
Go
good.
ahead, keep going.
Awesome.
They go,
Yeah, I love Scooby-Doo. I pretty much once a year go back and watch the live action movies.
You quoted it a lot too. At least Iraq Rice.
Yeah, I do the Rack Rice thing a lot. Mary Jane, that's like my favorite name. Yeah, I just love everything Scooby-Doo. So it was actually a kind of a mandate from me originally where I was like, we got to talk about Scooby-Doo for Terror Tales. And then you were like, well, then let's talk about Zombie Island.
Yep.
The bestest of the Scooby-Doo. But I was a big fan of this, the Alien one that came out after, and then the Cyber Chase. I remember playing the video game.
Yeah.
So Scooby-Doo-Doo.
Sweet. All right. So that is a recommend from all of us. I'm assuming. Yeah. Okay. Big
Yeah,
recommend.
unless you like don't know who the Scoobert is.
Let's do something wicked next, and then we'll wrap it up with the old Nemo.
Yep.
So something wicked this way comes. I had a lot of high hopes for because it is Bradbury, and it's spooky,
Yeah.
and we've been talking a lot about him.
I didn't want to say too much after I had watched it because I didn't want to cloud your judgment on this. So I'm very curious to see how you felt about the movie.
I didn't love the movie. I think I would watch it again to kind of revisit it just to see how I truly feel. But for me, I think the best part was to see what has been inspired by this story. Like the idea of a dark carnival, I think we've seen a lot since, and I'm assuming that Bradbury had something to do with that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this movie felt...
I love the idea of like the autumn carnival, like the carnival that shouldn't be coming at that time of year, and it kind of like sweeps through the town all creepy and sets up, and it's very mysterious.
It felt like a Stephen King adaptation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Parts
and then
of it
obviously
did.
like knowing very. I haven't seen Needful Things, but I've seen like the Rick and Morty parody. Like I know the whole bit is like dude comes, sets up shop, makes like basically Faustian bargains. Like this all goes back to like the Faustian bargain of like you make a bargain with the devil and you get what you want, but with a twist. So there's stuff in this with like the woman who wishes she was young and beautiful. She gets to be young and beautiful, but then she's blind. So you get moments like that. Yeah, I felt the same way, and I didn't want to say like right off the bat after I watched it, like don't get your hopes up. But I know how you love Bradbury, I love Bradbury. Seeing that he did the screenplay for this, I was very hopeful. And there were elements of it that felt very Bradbury that I loved. Like you said, the Halloween vibe, the spirit, the idea of the carnival coming in. I liked the little twists with everybody's dreams coming true, but with a price. I loved the relationship between the son and his older dad, and how there's this running thing throughout the whole movie where he's worried about his dad being old and his dad maybe passing away, and his dad is feeling the same thing, and they're both kind of trying to deal with that. And then you mentioned in Goosebumps a lot of the time the kids go to the adults and tell them what's going on, and they don't believe them. And this, when they finally do go and tell the dad what's going on, he's like, yeah, no, I totally believe you, let's get this sorted out. And it's a really
It seems
and there's
more
a lot of stuff in a library, so I was like,
there were a lot of
more
really
trusting.
Yeah, there were a lot of really good moments between the son and the father.
just not a great movie.
Yeah,
The story's not fantastic. Well, how did you feel?
I mean, I don't feel like it's nearly as engaging as some of the other things that we've watched this week.
Yeah.
it has a good vibe, and I think that the vibe carries it for a good portion of the film. But there's just some other little things like that kind of threw me off, like some of the naming conventions are just like
Nightshade is the kid's last name,
yeah, or fucking Dark, like just very boilerplate kind of shit. And I'm just like, oh, all right.
I like Jonathan Pryce, the guy from I think it was Brazil and Pirates of the Caribbean.
Also
he
from
plays Dark in this.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
he plays a sparrow, and then he's also one of the popes in Two Popes.
I like him. He did not work for me as this character in this.
No.
He didn't feel intimidating. He didn't feel creepy. I think that there were some other actors I read that they had considered. I don't remember who off the top of my head, but they sounded way better for this. And a lot of this felt very like TV movie. I feel like if it had been better directed with maybe a little bit bigger budget.
Apparently there's another cut of this movie that's supposed to possibly exist somewhere.
Well, there was a lot of studio interference. They didn't feel like there were enough effects in the movie, so there's a lot of sequences that were filmed. Like I could tell without even having read it, and then when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. When the I think it's the father, yeah, when he runs into the House of Mirrors and he sees his kid through the mirror and he's like, "Dad, help me," or whatever. The kid is like way older looking in that scene, and it's because they came back and shot it a year later.
I was like, is he that older? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they shot the whole House of Mirrors
weird.
thing a year later, and kids sprout. So he looked a lot older, and then they show him again after, and he's back to his littler age. So there's some weird stuff like that.
I was like,
there's time travel.
I was like,
dude.
did I miss something?
Yeah, it felt like something like if it had been in the deft hands of a Spielberg or something who can really capture. Like I didn't think the performances from the kids were anything amazing. Sometimes child performances are fantastic and they surprise you, but a lot of the time stuff is very stilted, and in this, like, a lot of the delivery didn't feel great or like really convincing. But it was one of those things where I was like, ooh, concept wasted. Like that's kind of where, and it made me want to read the book, which I guess is
I
good,
think
if
it influenced a lot. I know it's been an influence on Gaiman, and I know it's been an influence on King, so I'm excited to watch Needful Things later on.
Yeah, that was the fun thing, and I mentioned this to you guys about watching all of these movies, is that in the children's dark fantasy genre, there's just a lot of crossover. Like, everything's inspired by The Wizard of Oz. Coraline feels like it has a lot of Oz or Alice in Wonderland inspirations, and then Something Wicked, also feels like it's, well, one, Ray Bradbury pops up in a lot of other different stuff, and like you said, there's the Gaiman influences.
I mean, even that season
Sandman
of Are You Afraid of the Dark we watched.
Very much, with Carnival, very much. Yeah, so I can see how this would have inspired a lot of things, but it makes me curious if the movie inspired a lot of that, or if the book is what inspired everything, and this adaptation is maybe... It really feels like it's ripe for a modern remake or a modern reinterpretation.
Bad luck with Carnival movies in general on the show.
What else?
We watched... what's the one that came out recently? The fucking Guillermo one.
Oh, Nightmare Alley.
Yeah, that one wasn't great. We watched was it Dark Carnival last year during Terror Tales?
Dark Carnival?
Or something like that. It was like a
Clown House.
That wasn't Clown House, but it was. I think we watched it the same week that we watched Clown House, but it's like an older movie.
Carnival of Souls?
No, we definitely did not watch Carnival of Souls.
I don't know.
I hear that one's good. Maybe that's how I can get some good Carnival.
Yeah, we need to watch Carnival of Souls and Freaks and kind of redeem ourselves.
Yeah, totally redeem ourselves.
Yeah,
definitely.
So yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't recommend this unless you're really like, I gotta know what inspired so much.
Yeah, and it didn't really surprise me either, because Ray Bradbury seems to be, he's one of those writers that's just difficult to adapt. Like I can't really think, because like there was an Illustrated Man movie that was pretty much panned. There's I don't know if the Fahrenheit.
There've been multiple shots of it. There've been multiple shots of Fahrenheit.
I think the original one people liked.
Yeah, but most of his stuff,
because they even did one with Michael Shannon and Michael B. Jordan that went nowhere.
Yeah,
it came out like recently,
a couple years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, overall didn't work for me. I would recommend checking out maybe some Bradbury short stories as opposed to actually watching this movie.
Halloween Tree.
Yeah, exactly.
The animation's supposed to be great. So
cool,
and that's free online.
Free online.
Look, all right,
let's talk about Finding Nemo. Oh, fuck you up. Fish are friends.
Yeah, so I had
with this.
I had a full blown conversation with someone like, "Oh, I love that as a kid." And, like, told me the story, and then, I forget what happened. And I was like, "What? Oh, what'd you like about it?" Like, and they were like, "Oh, like the father son relationship." I was like, "So that's gonna be Finding Nemo." I'm talking about Little Nemo.
Yeah, so I had never seen this. I know you've referenced it a bunch of times.
Yeah, I grew up with this movie. I had it on VHS, and I fucking loved it as a kid. I watched it all the time.
Yeah, I knew like that it was based on a children's book or a novel or a comic
book.
or something.
It
yeah.
fucking kicks off like a goddamn fever dream too.
Well,
Yeah, it almost is.
yeah.
So
So
very, very. I mean, it's about dreams and nightmares, and so when you're a kid, those are obviously huge deals. Like when you're an adult, you know how to handle them better, for the most part. But it starts off in a nightmare.
yeah, the thing that I always think of when I think of Little Nemo is that, speaking of Cabin in the Woods, Frank Kranz's character, the stoner character, is reading Little Nemo when he's trying to like chill out from what's going on in the house. And at one point, he's just sitting there reading. He's like, "Oh man, Nemo, you got to get home. Your shit's all topsy turvy." And I just was thinking about that the whole time I was watching this movie. But I compared it to like a Don Bluth movie meets like a Miyazaki movie, and there's obviously like a lot of Japanese animation talent behind this, and then also you have like
Chris Columbus was involved too.
Ray
you might
Bradbury
know from
also.
Home Alone and Harry Potter, and then Ray Bradbury was involved in this. A lot of hands.
Yeah, and I think that it makes for a pretty awesome experience, if for nothing else. Like, yeah, the story is kind of a bunch of just random like adventures that this kid is going on in his dreams, but the animation is gorgeous enough that I was completely enthralled throughout the entire thing. I was like, this is just so amazing to look at. And there were scenes that were making me like want to cry because of how well they captured that like that childhood feeling. Like when he first meets Morpheus and they're on the train things and they're like going down like a roller coaster and they're like shh. Yeah, and just like all of the little details. And then we talked about Icarus, the best character in the movie.
So cute.
His little
So
chipmunk, like just wanting to
Flying
have like
squirrel.
Flying squirrel, yeah, sorry.
okay.
Much more doper than a chipmunk. Chippendale, eat your hearts out.
Yeah, they had him like blades.
Yeah.
This guy just fucking floats.
But like I said, you know, this may or may not have influenced gaming, because you got Morpheus, you got the dream world. Feels very much like it could be a weird side Sandman story.
Yeah, I think it's great, and we get to the world building's fun because we get to explore this dream world, and then we get this really fucked up clown character who just smokes the whole time, which I guess is shows how much times have changed, because that would not happen now.
Yeah,
at
it reminded
all.
me of something that you would see in Pinocchio.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
when he
yeah.
goes to like the bad boys land or whatever.
And we get to see kind of like the darker side of dreams, where it's like, yeah, you got to be careful because even that could go bad. And he's kind of a dick. Flip is. But I even had a little comic that I wrote when I was a kid, and my main character's name was Flip. Like, I loved this movie.
Yeah.
And so they are making a live action one. Netflix is just called Slumberland, and Jason Momoa is Flip. And it's I think it's Nemo's daughter. I'm not sure though, but it's a little girl goes to Slumberland.
I just feel like this is one of those things where the animation makes it.
Yeah, I
which
mean,
I'm
I
sure
don't
is. I mean, it came from illustration,
Right.
and then was
Old
adapted.
ass illustration.
Yeah, and was adapted really beautifully into this
cell
gorgeous, fluid
cell animation.
Yeah.
cell animation.
so good.
And you know, especially going back and watching something like this, it's on YouTube in great quality. If you want to check it out, that's how I watched it.
I think it's also on Prime.
Yeah, I just knew it was on YouTube and was like, I'm going to check this out. And it was in fantastic quality. So, I mean, it's gorgeous. And we get so few hand-drawn movies unless they're coming from, like, Studio Ghibli or, you know, Disney. Well, Disney mostly is doing, like, live-action remakes and
I thought you
CG
just meant
stuff.
in general.
No, but
Recently,
I mean, like, in
yeah.
modern day,
Oh,
like,
right.
like, how often do you see a hand-drawn animated movie? Very rarely. So going back and watching these really gorgeously done ones is always a huge treat for me. So if nothing else, like, I loved the dream logic because it felt very much like how dreams are, where when he's in the nightmare or in the dream, he pretty much never questions what's going on. Like when he's being chased by the train, like into his house. He's just like, you gotta help me, and he's freaking out. And that's how it feels when you're in a dream. You're like, I'm not questioning what's going on. I'm just reacting to all the crazy shit that's happening. Or when he's hanging out with Flip and they go into like the place that's upside down and they're hanging on the tables, and it's
a girl.
Yeah, you think Chris Nolan took inspiration
He
from
had to.
Little Nemo?
When I was watching in the background, I heard "Wah." I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
Was this your first experience with Nemo?
No, so I watched this when my parents have bowled since I was in like my entire childhood. So
Smoked him.
yeah, definitely just No, they're bowlers. They go to the bowling alley and bowl.
Oh, with their clubs and everything.
I thought you were saying they were bold. I was gonna say my parents were italic.
Italian.
Jesus. So there was a daycare center that was there. So you would bring your kids with you, and then you would leave them at the daycare center when you go to bowl league.
Oh, this is a perfect daycare center movie.
Yeah,
For nap time.
So it was a lot of like this Don Bluth. So a lot of stuff that had like that like
Thumbelina.
your
Ferngullies
Troll in Central Park kind of shit.
Okay.
Like, so that was where I had first seen this, was on a tiny CRT
Yeah.
mounted to the ceiling.
Right on.
Just waiting to fall on some unsuspecting child's head.
Yeah.
So there was a ton of it that I remembered, but I wasn't like,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, I remember seeing this,
Right.
but not like.
I revisit
Old
it
enough
every
to-
few years, and
yeah.
I still love it. Like, it still holds up for me.
I just wish that my dreams were this exciting instead of being about like, oh, I'm late for my college classes when I haven't been in college for 10 years. It's oh no, I'm in my underwear in my high school theater production. No, I want to be fucking hanging out with the Santa Claus Sleep King, riding trains around, and hanging out with my flying squirrel, and getting it on with princesses and becoming the Prince of Dreams. And
On top of that, if you just leaned into being in your underwear in high school theater, you'd probably kill. Like, so,
yeah, it's one of those
it'd be
things in
so
hindsight.
funny.
You're like, yeah, I could have been the coolest person in the world, but
Big recommend for me. I will be checking out the live action one when it comes out soon.
yeah, if you're a fan of animation and especially hand-drawn animation, this I feel like is essential. It is a really cool blend of, like I said, Japanese animation and the more American sensibilities with a lot of the designs and stuff, and heavily influenced and concepted by Mobius, who is usually in sci-fi movies he was the go-to like concept artist, but does all kinds of like gorgeous, colorful, weird, dreamlike illustrations and concept arts. So when I saw his name, I was like, this is going to be awesome, and it was. So highly recommend for me too.
Yeah. This one, I guess, a little bit lighter on the horror than some of the other movies we watched.
It's got some scary shit in it, though.
But yeah.
Especially for a little kid, but a lot of like that's what it reminded me of.
Giant
Don
fucking
Bluth.
nightmare.
His Don Bluth movies always felt that way, where it was like there's always that hint of like the seedier, darker side.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's a big recommend for me. I'm guessing sounds
Yeah.
like a recommend from you guys.
Yep.
And that's going to wrap it up for our discussion on children's horror movies this week. Overall, fun week. Thank you to everyone that contributed. We appreciate those suggestions. Next week, we are going to be doing deep cuts from The Masters.
Very excited about this list. We got some good ones on here.
Yeah, I'm hoping. And some of these...
Well, most of the ones I haven't seen, but
Yeah,
like that's why I'm excited. Yeah.
So, first up, we got In the Mouth of Madness, which I believe is Carpenter, right?
Mm-hmm. With Samuel Neal.
And then Cigarette Burns, which I think is Carpenter and Hooper.
I think so.
That one's like an anthology of some sort.
Yeah, part of the
Shocker,
Masters of Horror.
which is Craven.
Mm-hmm.
Body Bags. That one I don't know.
I believe Body Bags is an anthology.
Okay.
So it's a couple of
Well,
them.
we'll let you know next week when we get there. Invaders from Mars, The Dark Half, and Spontaneous Combustion.
Yeah.
So I know we got Carpenter in there, we got Craven in there, we got Hooper in there, and I think we got one Romero in there.
Yeah, so you guys were really great about understanding what we were asking for, because I was a little bit nervous about like, okay, so I'm asking for deep cuts, so don't give me like your Halloweens,
Right?
And the stuff that obviously we've seen a million times, and you guys gave us, in a lot of cases, too deep of cuts that we had to slice off the list for some of these categories. But I appreciate it. I appreciate the effort, and I appreciate that you guys are really looking to have us watch stuff that we may not have seen. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see if I'm blown away or highly disappointed.
Yeah, there's a reason they're deep cuts.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Thanks for continuing to listen / watch the show into our 5th season. I haven't even been here the whole time, and it feels like it's been a million years, but in a good way. A million years of fun and laughs and fart and balls jokes. And
I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Never again.
yeah, so
You got something to say? No. You're going to make more balls jokes? I won't stand for it.
yeah, we're going very clean this season. So just remember,
All right, shitbirds is going to wrap it up. I've been Tone.
I've been John.
and as always, for the
Unplug your mic.
as always, I'm 5 times the internet darling.
Ooh.
Internet darling Anthony.
So a 6th time.
5 times the boy Anthony.
We will see you next week.
Keep it creepy.
Creepy.
Jinx,
Creeping.
you and me, Tugger.
Cool. What?
Ooh.